There's a room somewhere right now where a man is making the biggest mistake of his life, and he thinks he's doing something beautiful. He's down on one knee, ring in hand, heart pounding, about to promise forever to someone he barely knows. Not because he doesn't know facts about her, but because he doesn't know the truth about what he's feeling. That overwhelming sensation he calls love. Friedrich Nietzsche would tell him it's the first of 6 illusions that will systematically destroy everything he could have become. And here's what makes this truly terrifying. This man thinks he's choosing freely. He thinks this is his decision. He thinks this feeling in his chest is real. But Nietzsche spent decades dissecting human behavior and discovered something that changes everything. Love as we understand it, as society sells it, as you've been taught to pursue it, doesn't exist. What exists is a collection of biological drives, social programming, and psychological delusions so powerful they can convince you to abandon your potential, surrender your freedom, and call it the best decision you ever made. I'm about to walk you through 6 illusions that Nietzsche identified. 6 traps that catch even intelligent men, 6 lies so beautiful they feel like truth. And I need you to understand something before we start. This information is dangerous, not because it's false, but because once you see these illusions clearly, you can never unsee them. Every romantic movie will look different. Every love song will sound hollow. Every couple you know will reveal the cage they're living in. But that's the price of clarity. That's the cost of freedom. Nietzsche believed most people prefer beautiful lies over ugly truths, and after this video, you'll understand exactly why. So the question isn't whether you're ready for this. The question is whether you're strong enough to live with what you're about to learn. Because the 6 illusions we're about to destroy, they're not just ideas. They're the foundation of how modern relationships work. And once that foundation cracks, everything built on it comes crashing down. Illusion number 1. You think love completes you, but it actually fragments you. Nietzsche wrote something in Thus Spoke Zarathustra that sounds romantic, until you understand what he actually meant. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Most people read that and think it's about creative passion. But Nietzsche was describing something much darker. He was talking about the internal war between who you are and who you're becoming. That chaos isn't a problem to solve. It's the engine of transformation. It's what drives you to overcome yourself, to create, to evolve beyond your current limitations. And here's where the first illusion destroys you. Love promises to end that chaos. Every romantic narrative tells you the same story. You're incomplete. You're searching. You're half of a whole. Then you meet the one, and suddenly everything makes sense. The chaos stops. You're complete. You're home. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Nietzsche would call it the death of potential. Because that chaos you're trying to escape, that restlessness you want to cure with a relationship, that's not a disease. That's your unrealized power trying to emerge. Every moment you spend uncomfortable with yourself is a moment you're close to breakthrough. Every time you feel incomplete, you're actually sensing the gap between who you are and who you could become. And that gap is sacred, it's necessary. It's the space where growth happens. But love, the way society packages it, tells you to close that gap by finding another person. Don't transform yourself. Find someone who accepts you as you are. Don't overcome your limitations. Find someone who doesn't see them as limitations. Don't become more. Just find someone who makes you feel complete. I know a man named Thomas, 32 years old, building a startup, working 18-hour days, barely sleeping, completely obsessed with his vision. His friends said he was unbalanced. His family said he needed to find someone. His therapist suggested he was avoiding intimacy. Then he met Rebecca. She was patient, understanding, supportive. She didn't demand his time. She didn't complain about his obsession. She loved him as he was. 6 months later, they moved in together. 1 year later, married. 2 years later, Thomas sold his startup at a fraction of its potential because Rebecca wanted stability. 3 years later, Thomas works a corporate job he tolerates. He has work-life balance, he's a good husband, he's responsible, and the chaos is gone. That restless energy that drove him disappeared. That obsessive focus that made him dangerous, tamed. That unrealized potential, buried. But here's what nobody tells you about that story. Thomas thinks he grew up. Nietzsche would say Thomas died. The man who could have built something revolutionary chose comfort instead. The chaos that could have birthed a dancing star was medicated with domesticity. And the worst part? Thomas believes this is what happiness looks like. He traded his potential for peace, his power for partnership, his becoming for belonging. Nietzsche wrote, "Man is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to overcome him?" When you look for love to complete you, you're not looking for a partner. You're looking for an excuse to stop growing. You're seeking permission to remain who you are instead of becoming who you could be. Because growth is painful. Transformation is terrifying. Overcoming yourself requires you to destroy the person you currently are. And love whispers, you don't have to do that. I accept you completely. Just stay with me. Just stop fighting. Just be enough. That's the first illusion. And it catches almost everyone. Illusion number 2. You think love is about connection, but it's actually about possession. Nietzsche had a brutal insight about human relationships that most people can't handle. He wrote, "In revenge and in love, woman is more barbarous than man." Think about what that means. Not that women are evil, but that they approach relationships with a different strategy, a more primal strategy, one rooted in acquisition and control. Watch what happens in any relationship after the initial infatuation fades. Slowly, subtly, the questions start. Where are you going? Who are you meeting? When will you be back? What are you thinking about? These aren't asked with malicious intent. They're asked with genuine interest, with care, with love. But Nietzsche would tell you to watch the pattern. What's being established here? What's being normalized? The slow erosion of autonomy, the gradual transfer of freedom, the piece-by-piece construction of a cage that feels like home. Modern relationships celebrate this. They call it emotional intimacy. They frame it as healthy communication. They present it as what love looks like. But strip away the language and watch the mechanics. One person is slowly absorbing another person's independence. One person is gradually making themselves central to another person's existence. One person is systematically creating a world where the other person can't function without them. Nietzsche observed this in every relationship around him. He watched friends disappear into marriages. He saw brilliant men become shadows of themselves. He noticed how partnership transforms into dependency, how connection becomes control, how love reveals itself as the most sophisticated form of ownership ever invented. Let me tell you about Marcus and Jennifer. They met in grad school, both ambitious, both independent, both with clear visions for their futures. The relationship started casually. Coffee, dinner, weekends together. Then Jennifer got a job offer in another city. Great opportunity, career-defining role. But it would mean long distance. They had a conversation, just a conversation. Jennifer turned down the job, not because Marcus demanded it, he didn't. He said he'd support whatever she chose. But the way he said it, the look in his eyes, the weight of disappointing him, it was enough. She chose him over the opportunity. Nietzsche would point to that moment and say, "Watch what just happened." A test occurred, and the result determined everything that followed. Because now there's a precedent. Now there's a debt. Not a debt that anyone acknowledges, but a debt that exists in the invisible ledger every relationship maintains. Jennifer sacrificed for Marcus. The relationship absorbed her ambition, and Marcus, consciously or not, now expects that pattern to continue. Fast forward 5 years. Jennifer has a successful career, but not the one she could have had. She's happy, mostly. She loves Marcus. But sometimes, late at night, she wonders about the path not taken. She wonders who she would have become if she'd taken that job. She wonders what she traded for this relationship. And here's the dark part that Nietzsche understood. She can never know. That potential version of herself, the woman who took the risk, who chose ambition over love, who prioritized becoming over belonging, that woman doesn't exist. She was sacrificed on the altar of connection. And now, 5 years later, Jennifer is so deeply integrated into Marcus's life, so thoroughly connected to his world, so completely identified as part of a unit, rather than an individual, that separating would feel like tearing off a limb. That's not poetic language. That's the actual psychological experience. The relationship has become part of her identity, part of her nervous system, part of how she defines reality itself. Nietzsche called this the herd instinct, the human tendency to merge with others, to blur boundaries, to sacrifice individuality for the comfort of belonging. And romantic relationships are where this instinct expresses itself most intensely. You start as two complete people. You end as one fragmented unit that can't survive separation. You begin with two circles that occasionally overlap. You end with two circles that have merged so completely you can't remember where one ends and the other begins. And everyone calls this intimacy. Everyone celebrates this as relationship goals. Everyone points to couples who can't function independently as examples of true love. But Nietzsche would ask you, what did they lose? What potential did they bury? What version of themselves did they kill to achieve this merger? Because possession disguised as connection is still possession. Control disguised as care is still control, and a beautiful cage is still a cage. Illusion number 3, you think jealousy proves love, but it actually proves fear. This is where Nietzsche gets really uncomfortable for most people. He wrote, "The demand to be loved is the greatest of all presumptions." Read that again slowly. The demand to be loved is the greatest of all presumptions. What does that mean? It means expecting another person to orient their entire existence around you is fundamentally arrogant. It means believing you're entitled to someone's devotion is a form of madness. It means the whole framework of modern relationships is built on an assumption that Nietzsche considered absurd. But we don't see it that way. We see jealousy as proof of investment. We interpret possessiveness as evidence of care. We treat the fear of losing someone as validation that they matter. Let me show you how this illusion operates. You're dating someone. You're at a party. Your partner is talking to someone attractive, laughing, engaged, enjoying the conversation, and you feel that sensation in your chest, that tightness, that heat, that voice in your head asking questions. Are they flirting? Is there attraction? Should I be worried? We call that jealousy. We accept it as normal. We even expect it in healthy relationships, but Nietzsche would stop you right there and ask, what is that feeling actually telling you? Is it telling you about love? Or is it telling you about fear? Strip away the romantic language and examine the mechanics. You're afraid. Afraid of losing access to this person. Afraid of being replaced. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of your inadequacy being exposed. The jealousy isn't measuring your love. It's measuring your insecurity. It's quantifying how much of your sense of self depends on this other person's continued presence. And here's what makes this illusion so dangerous. Society has convinced you that this fear is beautiful, that monitoring your partner's interactions is being attentive, that feeling anxious when they talk to others is being invested, that needing constant reassurance is being in love. Nietzsche would call this exactly what it is: weakness wearing love's mask. Because strong people don't fear loss. They don't need to control others to feel secure. They don't require constant validation to maintain their sense of worth. Strong people, in Nietzsche's framework, exist as complete units. They choose relationships as additions to their lives, not as foundations. They engage with others from a position of abundance, not scarcity. They can lose anyone and still remain themselves. But weak people, and this is most people, need relationships to define them, need partners to validate them, need the commitment of another person to feel worthy. And that need expresses itself as jealousy. I watched this destroy a relationship between two people I knew well, James and Michelle. 3 years together. Michelle was naturally social, warm with everyone, comfortable with physical affection. James interpreted every interaction she had with other men as a threat. Not because Michelle did anything inappropriate. She didn't. But because James's sense of security depended entirely on Michelle's exclusive focus. So he started making comments. Casual at first. Did you really need to hug him that long? You seemed really engaged in that conversation. Maybe wear something less revealing next time. Michelle, wanting to ease his discomfort, started adjusting. She became more careful, more conscious, more restricted. And James, rather than feeling more secure, felt more afraid. Because now he knew Michelle was capable of attracting others. Now he'd seen evidence that other men found her interesting. Now the threat felt more real. So the restrictions increased, the monitoring intensified. The relationship transformed from partnership into surveillance. And everyone watching from outside said the same thing. He just loves her so much. He's just afraid of losing her. It's actually kind of sweet how much he cares. Nietzsche would vomit at that interpretation. Because what they were actually watching was a weak man using love as justification for control. A fearful person, weaponizing emotion to cage another human being. A relationship that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with one person is inability to exist independently. The illusion here is profound. We've been taught that caring about someone means being afraid to lose them. That love naturally includes possessiveness. That wanting exclusive access to another person is romantic rather than controlling. But Nietzsche saw through it. He understood that true strength, true love if such a thing exists, requires zero possession. It requires the ability to appreciate someone completely while being perfectly fine if they leave. It requires valuing someone's presence without needing their presence. It requires loving someone enough to want their freedom more than your security. How many people are capable of that? Almost none. Because almost everyone is operating from fear disguised as love, from need disguised as devotion, from weakness disguised as care. Illusion number 4. You think sacrifice proves devotion, but it actually proves self-betrayal. Nietzsche had a warning that most people ignore until it's too late. He wrote, The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. New opinions are acquired, but the old skin remains. Think about what happens in relationships over time. You start as one person. You have interests, friendships, habits, dreams. Then the relationship deepens. And slowly, piece by piece, you begin sacrificing. Small things at first. You stop going to that gym because it takes time away from us. You decline invitations from friends because your partner doesn't like them. You abandon hobbies because they seem selfish now. You adjust your dreams because they don't fit our future. And every time you sacrifice, you tell yourself a story. This is what love requires. This is what commitment looks like. This is how you prove devotion. But Nietzsche would grab you by the shoulders and force you to see what's actually happening. You're not proving love. You're practicing self-destruction. Every piece of yourself you sacrifice doesn't strengthen the relationship. It weakens you. And a weak you brings less to the relationship, requires more from the relationship, depends more on the relationship. You become a smaller person who needs the relationship more. And that cycle continues until you've sacrificed so much of yourself that you can't imagine existing outside the relationship. Not because the relationship is so good, but because you've made yourself so small. Let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel was a writer, not published, not famous, but deeply committed to his craft. He wrote every morning, 4 hours minimum, before heading to his day job. Then he met Sarah. Sarah didn't ask him to stop writing. She was supportive initially, but mornings were the only time they had together before work. And Sarah reasonably wanted to connect. So Daniel started writing less, 30 minutes before she woke up. Then just weekends. Then just when inspiration struck. 2 years into the relationship, Daniel hadn't finished anything in months. He told himself writing was just a hobby anyway. He told himself relationships require compromise. He told himself real love means prioritizing the other person. 5 years later, Daniel doesn't write at all. He doesn't think about writing. That identity, that part of himself, has been so thoroughly sacrificed that it doesn't even register as a loss anymore. And Sarah is happy. She has a present, attentive partner who prioritizes her. Daniel seems happy. He's devoted, committed, doing everything right according to relationship standards. But Nietzsche would look at Daniel and see a corpse. A man who killed essential parts of himself and called it love. A person who confused self-betrayal with devotion. A human who traded his snakeskin for approval and now can't shed what he's become. Here's what makes this illusion so insidious. Society celebrates these sacrifices. We point to people who give up dreams for relationships and call them mature. We praise partners who abandon individuality for coupledom and call them committed. We valorize self-betrayal and call it love. But watch what happens 10 years later, 20 years later. These people wake up and don't recognize themselves. They look in the mirror and see someone they never intended to become. They have successful relationships by society's metrics, but they've lost something they can't name. Something essential, something that made them who they were. Nietzsche called this the last man. The person who has sacrificed everything dangerous, everything difficult, everything individual in pursuit of comfort and belonging. The person who says, "We have invented happiness," and blinks with incomprehension when you ask what they gave up to get there. The truth about sacrifice in relationships is brutal. Every piece of yourself you give away makes you less interesting, less valuable, less worthy of the love you're trying to earn. The person your partner fell in love with was the complete version. The person with hobbies, dreams, friends, obsessions. But you're systematically destroying that person, sacrificing piece after piece, thinking you're building something. You're not building. You're subtracting. And eventually you'll have subtracted so much that your partner will look at you and think, "Who is this person? This isn't who I fell in love with." Illusion number 5. You think love should be unconditional, but conditions are what make it real. This is the illusion that sounds most controversial. Nietzsche understood something about human nature that we desperately want to deny. All relationships are transactional. Every single one. He wrote, "There is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness." The reason in the madness is the transaction, the exchange, the deal that both parties are making, whether they admit it or not. Modern culture has elevated unconditional love to the highest ideal. Love someone regardless of their behavior. Accept them completely. Never withdraw affection. Love them at their worst. But Nietzsche would ask, what are you actually describing? You're describing a relationship where one person has zero incentive to grow, improve, or maintain standards. You're describing an arrangement where bad behavior gets rewarded with continued devotion. You're describing exactly how to create entitled, stagnant people who never overcome themselves. Real love, functional love, Sustainable love has conditions, clear ones. Meet me at my level or higher. Maintain yourself physically, mentally, spiritually. Continue growing, evolving, becoming. Add value to my life as I add value to yours. These aren't cruel requirements. These are standards. And standards are what separate relationships that elevate both people from relationships that drag both people into mediocrity. I know a woman named Patricia. She married young, 23, to a man named Kevin. Kevin was charming, ambitious, full of potential. Then they got married. Kevin gained 60 pounds, stopped going to the gym, stopped reading, stopped pursuing his goals. He played video games 4 hours every evening, watched sports all weekend, contributed minimally to household responsibilities. And Patricia, believing in unconditional love, believing her role was to accept him completely, said nothing. She loved him anyway. She supported him anyway. She tried to be the perfect, unconditionally accepting wife. 10 years later, Patricia is miserable. Kevin is the same, except worse. He's established that his behavior has no consequences, that Patricia will love him regardless, that growth is optional. And now Patricia resents him, resents the relationship, resents herself for enabling this situation. But she still believes walking away would make her a bad person. Because unconditional love means staying no matter what. Nietzsche would tell Patricia she's not practicing love. She's practicing enabling. She's not being devoted. She's being complicit in another person's stagnation. And by removing all conditions, all standards, all accountability, she's guaranteed that Kevin will never become anything more than what he currently is. Because why would he? The illusion of unconditional love is that it sounds noble. It feels evolved. It seems like the highest form of acceptance. But in practice, it destroys both people. It destroys the person being accepted unconditionally because they lose all motivation to grow. And it destroys the person doing the accepting because they're forced to lower their standards, compromise their needs, and call their suffering love. Real love, in Nietzsche's framework, requires both people to continuously earn it. Not through games or manipulation, but through being worthy, through maintaining themselves, through growing, through adding value. The moment either person stops doing that, the love should change. Not disappear necessarily, but transform. Become conditional on renewed effort. Because relationships without standards produce people without excellence. And Nietzsche's entire philosophy was about the pursuit of excellence, about becoming more, about overcoming the comfortable, mediocre version of yourself. Unconditional love is the enemy of that pursuit. Illusion number 6. You think finding love is the goal, but escaping love's illusions is what sets you free. This is where everything comes together. Nietzsche didn't write about love to help you find better relationships. He wrote about love to free you from needing them in the first place. He wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must be ready to burn in your own flame." How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? The ultimate illusion isn't any specific belief about love. It's the belief that love itself, romantic partnership, finding the one, is necessary for a complete life. That's the meta-illusion that contains all the others. Society tells you a story from childhood. You're incomplete alone. You need to find your other half. You need someone to share life with. You need partnership to have meaning. And this story is so deeply embedded, so thoroughly normalized, so universally reinforced that questioning it feels insane. But Nietzsche questioned everything. And what he found was that the pressure to couple up, to find love, to make relationships central to your identity, this pressure serves everyone except you. It serves society by creating stable, predictable, controllable people. It serves the economy by creating consumers who need bigger houses, more stuff, family-oriented products. It serves the people around you by making you less threatening, less dangerous, less likely to pursue greatness that makes them uncomfortable. But it doesn't serve your potential. It doesn't serve your growth. It doesn't serve the highest version of what you could become. Look at the men who changed the world. Look at the artists who created masterpieces. Look at the philosophers who thought dangerous thoughts. Look at the innovators who built revolutionary things. How many of them had conventional, stable, all-consuming romantic relationships during their most productive years? Almost none. Because creation requires the same energy that relationships consume. Becoming requires the same focus that love demands. Excellence requires the same obsession that partnership interrupts. Nietzsche himself never married. He had relationships, connections, moments of intimacy, but he never gave anyone the power to domesticate him. He never surrendered his solitude. He never traded his philosophical pursuit for romantic comfort. And that choice, that willingness to be alone, to be misunderstood, to be without conventional love, That's what allowed him to see clearly what everyone else was too embedded in relationships to notice. The 6 illusions we've explored, they're not bugs in how relationships work, they're features. They're how relationships successfully transform dangerous, individualistic, excellent people into safe, collective, mediocre people. And the final illusion, the one that keeps you trapped, is believing you need to play that game at all. You don't need love to complete you. You're already complete, or you would be if you stopped fragmenting yourself to fit into someone else's life. You don't need connection. You need to become so fully yourself that connection becomes optional rather than necessary. You don't need a relationship to give your life meaning. You need to create meaning so profound that relationships become interesting additions rather than essential foundations. Nietzsche's philosophy wasn't about avoiding love. It was about refusing to let love avoid becoming, about seeing the illusions clearly enough that you can choose consciously, rather than being chosen by biological drives and social programming. About being strong enough to stand alone, which is the only position from which you can actually choose to stand with someone else. So here's what you do with these 6 illusions. You stop believing the stories. You stop accepting the programming. You stop treating romantic love as life's ultimate goal. You recognize it for what it is. One option among many, one path among thousands, one choice that costs exactly as much as it gives. And most importantly, you never forget what Nietzsche spent his life trying to teach. The goal isn't to find love. The goal is to become who you are. And anything, including love, especially love, that prevents that becoming must be escaped. Not feared, not avoided, escaped. The way you escape a beautiful prison that everyone else is calling paradise. Write in the comments, I choose becoming over belonging. Those 5 words separate the men who will remain trapped in comfortable illusions from the men who will break free into uncomfortable truth. Your comment becomes your commitment, your declaration that you see the illusions now and refuse to be controlled by them anymore. Every man who writes that phrase joins the ranks of those willing to stand alone, to think dangerously, to become fully rather than couple safely. Hit the like button because doing so signals to everyone watching that the truth matters more than comfort. That philosophy isn't dead academic theory, but living practical wisdom, that men deserve information that respects their potential instead of selling them beautiful cages. Your like tells the algorithm that dangerous ideas deserve to spread, that Nietzsche's warnings deserve to be heard, that the next generation of men needs alternatives to the relationship script that's been suffocating masculine excellence for generations. Subscribe to this channel because the philosophers who came next discovered truths even more liberating, patterns in human behavior that reveal exactly how to build a life worth living without needing anyone's permission or presence. What's coming next will challenge every remaining illusion you're carrying about success, about purpose, about power, about becoming the kind of man who doesn't escape reality but creates it. The journey through philosophical truth never ends, it only goes deeper. And everyone who stays on this path discovers that the loneliness you feared was actually the freedom you needed.